Title: Cinderella Marries a Poor Boy, Hiding a Billionaire Secret. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village, nestled between rolling green hills and sparkling rivers, lived a young woman named Ella. She was lovingly nicknamed Cinderella by the locals because of her humble beginnings and her hard work running a small bakery left to her by her late mother. Despite the hardships, Ella always had a bright smile, her heart full of dreams, and a hope for true love that neither wealth nor status could buy. Ella had inherited a small bakery from her late mother, and it was the heart of the village. The scent of freshly baked bread and pastries wafting from her shop was as comforting as her warm smile. Though her days were long and her hands often sore, Ella found joy in her work, pouring love into every loaf of bread and cake she made. Despite the hardships, Ella never let her circumstances dull her spirit. Her laughter echoed through the village, and her kindness touched every soul she met. Beneath her flour-dusted apron was a heart full of dreams, a longing for a love so genuine it couldn't be swayed by wealth or status. She often watched the sun set behind the hills, whispering her hopes to the stars, believing that somewhere, someone was waiting to share her story. Little did she know, fate had already set her path toward a love far greater than she could imagine. And it all began one fateful morning when a mysterious stranger stepped into her bakery. One breezy morning, as Ella arranged freshly baked loaves of bread in the display, a disheveled young man entered her shop. His dark hair was tousled, and his clothes were simple and well-worn, yet his strikingly warm eyes lit up the room. As sunlight streamed through the bakery windows, Ella arranged freshly baked loaves of bread in the display. A comforting aroma of warm dough and cinnamon filled the air. As she adjusted the last loaf, the door creaked open, and a gentle gust of wind carried in a disheveled young man. His dark hair was tousled as if he'd just rolled out of bed, and his clothes, though clean, were simple and worn. Yet there was something about him, his strikingly warm eyes that seemed to carry the glow of 1,000 unspoken stories. They lit up the room, immediately catching Ella's attention. "Good morning," he said, with a shy smile, his voice deep but kind. He glanced around the shop as though he were taking in every detail, from the jars of jam on the counter to the colorful pastries lining the shelves. "Morning," Ella replied, brushing her hands on her apron. "What can I get for you?" The young man fumbled in his pocket and pulled out a handful of coins, holding them awkwardly as he looked at the display. "I'd like your best loaf, please." Ella's lips curved into a soft smile as she selected a loaf of crusty golden bread. She handed it to him, their fingers brushing ever so slightly. His touch was warm, and for a fleeting moment, she felt a spark she couldn't quite place. "First time here?" she asked, breaking the silence. The young man nodded. "Yeah, just moved to the village. My name's Leo." "Welcome, Leo," Ella said, her smile widening. "I'm Ella, but everyone calls me Cinderella. Long story." Leo chuckled, his laugh light and genuine. "Cinderella, huh? Well, it suits you. This place is like something out of a fairy tale." For a moment, they stood there, the simple exchange of bread turning into something deeper, a connection neither of them fully understood yet. As Leo left the shop with his loaf in hand, Ella couldn't help but watch him through the window, wondering why her heart had started to beat just a little faster. Little did she know, this chance meeting was the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. "Hi," he said with a shy grin, holding out a few coins. "I'd like a loaf of your best bread, please." Ella handed him a loaf, their hands brushing for a brief moment. The warmth of his touch lingered, and something about his demeanor intrigued her. "First time here?" she asked. "Yeah," he replied, avoiding eye contact. "I'm new in town. My name's Leo." Over the weeks, Leo became a regular at the bakery. He would stop by every morning, chatting with Ella about books, dreams, and the mysteries of life. He shared stories of his travels, though he was vague about his past. Ella found herself drawn to his kindness and the genuine curiosity he showed about her life. Each morning, just as Ella pulled the first batch of bread from the oven, the bell above the door would jingle, and there he'd be, smiling warmly, as if her little bakery was the highlight of his day. "Good morning, Cinderella," he would say, always with a playful tone. "Morning, Leo," she'd reply, unable to stop her own smile from forming. Leo had a knack for lingering, always finding an excuse to stay and chat. He would lean against the counter, sipping on the coffee Ella insisted on giving him on the house. Their conversations would meander from topic to topic. Books they'd read, places Leo had visited, and the dreams they both harbored. "I think I'd like to write someday," Leo said one morning, tracing patterns on the counter with his finger. "Right," Ella preguntó, intrigada. "Yeah," he nodded. "Stories about the world, about people. There's so much beauty in the little things. Like this place," he added, gesturing around the bakery. "It's not just a shop, it's a slice of someone's soul." Ella enrojeció, recogiendo un mechón de pelo detrás de su oreja. "You have a way with words already. But what about your past? What brought you here?" Leo hesitated, his gaze dropping to his coffee. "Ah, my past," he said, with a small laugh, as if brushing it off. "Let's just say I've been looking for something real, and I think I'm getting closer." Though vague, his words tugged at Ella's curiosity. There was a depth to him, like a novel with missing chapters she was eager to read. As days turned into weeks, Ella found herself waiting for his visits, her heart fluttering at the sound of the doorbell. She was drawn to his kindness, his wit, and the genuine interest he showed in her life. Unlike others, he didn't treat her bakery like just a stop for bread. He asked about her mother, her dreams of traveling someday, and even her silly childhood stories. One day, as they stood together, Leo offered to help tidy the shelves. "You're always working so hard," he said. "Let me do something for you for once." Ella laughed, handing him a broom. "All right, but don't think you're getting free bread for this." "I wouldn't dream of it," he teased, pretending to sweep dramatically. Their laughter filled the bakery, a warmth spreading between them that felt as natural as the rising sun. Ella knew she was falling for him, but what she didn't realize was that Leo too was falling, and just as deeply. Only he carried a secret he wasn't ready to share. One day, Leo surprised her by staying late after the shop closed. "You work too hard," he said. "Let me help." Together, they cleaned up, their laughter echoing in the quiet shop. Ella learned that Leo worked odd jobs around the village, painting fences, fixing roofs, and hauling goods. Despite his modest lifestyle, his optimism and resourcefulness were infectious. Yet there was an air of mystery about him. His smile often masked something deeper, a secret he seemed unwilling to share. Ella soon discovered that Leo wasn't just spending his mornings at her bakery. He was making himself useful all over the village. Whether it was painting fences for old Mr. Clark, fixing leaky roofs for the Thompsons, or hauling sacks of flour for the miller, Leo seemed to take on every odd job he could find. He was always cheerful, whistling tunes as he worked, his sleeves rolled up to reveal strong, capable arms. The villagers, though initially wary of the newcomer, grew fond of him. That Leo, they'd say, always lending a hand without asking for much in return. Ella admired his work ethic and the way he connected with people, but she couldn't help noticing the quiet moments when his smile seemed forced or when his gaze lingered on the horizon, lost in thought. One afternoon, after watching Leo repair the bakery's front sign, Ella handed him a cold lemonade. "You're good at this," she said, nodding toward the freshly painted letters. "Just something I picked up," Leo replied, taking a sip. "Something?" Ella raised an eyebrow. "You're always so vague. Where did you learn to do all this?" Leo hesitated, his usual cheerful demeanor faltering. "Here and there," he said with a shrug. "Life teaches you things when you need to survive." Ella frunció el ceño, sintiendo el peso detrás de sus palabras. "You're hiding something," she said softly. Leo met her gaze, his expression unreadable. For a moment, Ella thought he might tell her, but then he simply smiled, that same warm but guarded smile she'd come to know so well. "Everyone has their secrets, Cinderella," he said lightly, though his tone held an edge of seriousness. "What matters is the present, right?" Ella wanted to press further, but something in his eyes stopped her. There was a vulnerability there, a quiet plea for her to let it go. Instead, she smiled back. "All right, but one day I hope you'll trust me enough to tell me." "I will," Leo promised, his voice barely above a whisper. Despite the mystery that lingered around him, Leo's optimism was infectious. He had a way of turning even the most mundane tasks into something joyful, whether it was cracking jokes while repairing a broken chair or humming as he carried heavy crates. His energy was magnetic, but as Ella watched him walk away that evening, she couldn't shake the feeling that Leo's seemingly simple life was hiding something far more complex, a truth that would change everything. As the months passed, their bond grew stronger. On a moonlit evening, while walking by the river, Leo nervously took Ella's hand. "I know I don't have much to offer," he said, his voice trembling, "but I promise I'll always be there for you. Ella, will you be with me?" Ella and Leo grew closer with every shared laugh and every quiet moment. Their connection was effortless, as though they had known each other in a life before this one. Whether it was a stolen moment over coffee in the bakery, or the way Leo's eyes lit up when Ella told him about her dreams, their bond deepened in ways that words couldn't capture. One crisp autumn evening, as the full moon cast its silver glow over the village, Leo invited Ella for a walk along the riverbank. The water shimmered like liquid stars, and the air was filled with the gentle rustling of leaves. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, their footsteps crunching softly against the gravel path. Ella glanced over at Leo, noticing how unusually quiet he was. His hands were tucked into his pockets, his gaze fixed on the horizon, but there was a nervous energy about him. "Everything okay?" Ella asked, tilting her head. Leo stopped walking, turning to face her. His dark eyes searched hers, and for a moment, he seemed at a loss for words. Then, with a shaky breath, he reached for her hand. "Ella," he began, his voice trembling slightly. I know I don't have much to offer. No fancy house, no riches, no grand promises. Just me, this guy who paints fences and fixes roofs. Ella abrió su boca para hablar, pero Leo le apretó suavemente la mano, como si le estuviera pidiendo que le dejara terminar. But what I do have, he continued, his voice steadier now, is a heart that's completely yours. You've shown me what it means to feel alive, to have something worth dreaming about. And I promise you, no matter what, I'll always be there for you. Ella, will you be with me? Tears welled up in Ella's eyes as she stared at him, her heart swelling with emotion. In that moment, the world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them under the endless sky. Leo, she whispered, her voice catching in her throat. You've given me more than you'll ever realize. You've shown me that love isn't about wealth or status. It's about finding someone who makes your soul feel at home. Of course I'll be with you. Relief and joy washed over Leo's face as he pulled her into a tight embrace. They stayed like that for what felt like an eternity. The gentle sound of the river and the glow of the moon, their only witnesses. As they walked back to the village hand in hand, Leo's heart was light, yet part of him still wrestled with the secret he hadn't revealed. He wanted to tell her everything, to bare his soul completely, but he couldn't bring himself to shatter the moment. Little did Ella know, her love for the humble, hard-working man by her side was about to be tested in ways neither of them could have foreseen. Ella's heart swelled with emotion. Leo, she whispered, I don't care about wealth or status. All I've ever wanted is someone who sees me for who I am. Yes, I'll be with you. The wedding news of their engagement spread through the village like wildfire. The townsfolk were shocked. How could Ella, the most beautiful and hardworking girl in the village, marry a poor drifter? They gossiped. But Ella paid no heed to their whispers. Her heart knew what it wanted. The wedding was a simple affair held in the village square. Flowers adorned the venue, and the scent of Ella's freshly baked pastries filled the air. As she walked down the aisle, her eyes met Leo's, and nothing else mattered. Leo's vows were heartfelt. Ella, you've taught me that love isn't about what we have, but who we are when we're together. I vow to protect, cherish, and make you laugh every day of our lives. Ella sonrió a través de lágrimas. And I vow to stand by you, through thick and thin, rich or poor, for as long as we both shall live. As the crowd erupted in applause, the couple sealed their vows with a kiss, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. The revelation. After the wedding, Leo insisted on taking Ella on a honeymoon to a nearby city. They boarded a modest bus, and Ella marveled at the excitement in his eyes. After their simple yet beautiful wedding, filled with laughter, flowers, and the heartfelt blessings of the villagers, Leo eagerly told Ella he had a surprise planned for their honeymoon. Though she protested, saying he didn't need to make a fuss, Leo insisted. We may not have much, he said, grinning mischievously, but that doesn't mean I can't spoil my wife a little. Early the next morning, they boarded a modest, slightly rickety bus, heading to a nearby city. Ella clutched Leo's hand, giggling at his barely contained excitement. You're like a little boy with a secret, she teased. You'll see, Leo replied, his eyes sparkling. Patience, Cinderella. As the bus wound its way through rolling hills and bustling small towns, Ella marveled at the sights. It wasn't a grand journey, but being with Leo made it feel magical. He leaned over, pointing out landmarks and sharing funny stories about his travels, all while keeping the details of their destination a mystery. When they arrived in the city, Ella was awestruck. The streets were alive with energy, the aroma of street food wafting through the air, and colorful market stalls lining the roads. But before Ella could take it all in, Leo led her down a quieter street, his pace quickening. They stopped in front of a grand iron gate, vines twisting artfully around its intricate design. Beyond the gate stood a mansion, its walls glimmering in the afternoon sun, surrounded by perfectly manicured gardens. Ella se congeló, su boca cayendo abierta. Leo, what is this? Leo scratched the back of his neck nervously, his usual confidence faltering. It's, where we're staying. Well, sort of. Sort of? Ella echoed, still staring at the opulent building. Taking a deep breath, Leo pushed open the gate and led her inside. As they approached the front steps, a well-dressed older man stepped out to greet them, bowing slightly. "Welcome back, Mr. Leonhardt," the man said, his voice refined. "Wait, Mr. Leonhardt?" Ella turned to Leo, confusion etched on her face. Leo sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Ella," he began, his voice soft, "I haven't been completely honest with you." Ella's brow furrowed, her heart pounding. "What do you mean?" "This," Leo gestured to the mansion and the sprawling estate, "is mine. Well, technically, my family's. I'm not just Leo, the guy who paints fences and fixes roofs. I'm Leonhardt Jameson, heir to one of the largest fortunes in the region." Ella stared at him, her mind racing to catch up with his words. "You... what? But why didn't you tell me?" Leo stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "Because I've seen what money does to people, Ella. It changes them, makes them see you for what you have, not who you are. I wanted to be sure you loved me for me, and you do. That's all I've ever wanted." For a long moment, Ella said nothing, her gaze fixed on the mansion. Finally, she looked back at Leo, her expression unreadable. "I fell in love with a man who worked hard, who cared deeply, who made me laugh even when I was exhausted," she said, her voice steady. "That man is you. But this," she gestured to the mansion, "doesn't change what I feel for you." Relief washed over Leo's face, and he pulled her into his arms. "Thank you," he whispered. "But," Ella added, pulling back slightly, "you owe me a lot of explanations, Leonhardt." Leo laughed, nodding. "I do, and I'll tell you everything. I promise." Though the revelation was overwhelming, Ella's love for Leo didn't waver. Together, they began a new chapter of their lives, one that proved love was stronger than any secret, and richer than all the wealth in the world. When they arrived, Leo led her to a grand mansion on the outskirts of the city. Ella's jaw dropped. "Leo, what is this place?" Leo scratched his head nervously. "I've been keeping a secret," he admitted. "I didn't want you to love me for my money, so I hid the truth. This mansion, it's my family's. I'm actually a billionaire." Ella stared at him, her emotions a whirlwind of shock, disbelief, and confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I've seen too many people chase me for my wealth," Leo explained. "I needed to be sure you loved me for who I am, not for what I have. And you proved that you do." Ella took a deep breath. "Leo, I fell in love with the man who carried groceries for old Mrs. Miller and fixed Mr. Thompson's roof in the pouring rain. The man who made me laugh when I was too tired to smile. That's who you are to me." Leo's face lit up with relief and joy. "And that's the only man I'll ever be for you," he promised. "A life of love and laughter. Life in the mansion was an adjustment for Ella, but she brought her warmth and simplicity with her. Instead of hiring a team of chefs, she cooked for Leo, filling the grand halls with the comforting aroma of homemade meals. Leo, in turn, supported her dream of expanding her bakery into the city. Together, they started a charity to help struggling small business owners, giving back to the community that had shaped them. But she faced it with the same humility and grace that had defined her all along. The grandeur of the place, a sweeping marble staircase, glittering chandeliers, and sprawling gardens, was intimidating at first, but Ella quickly found ways to make it feel like home. Despite the household staff's offers to handle everything, Ella insisted on doing things her way. "I'm not a princess," she told them with a warm smile, "just a baker at heart." Every morning she'd wake early to cook breakfast for Leo, filling the grand halls with the familiar, comforting aroma of fresh-baked bread and pastries. Though the kitchen was far larger than her little bakery back in the village, Ella found comfort in kneading dough and perfecting her recipes. Leo, smitten by her determination, often joined her in the mornings, sneaking bites of dough or attempting, and failing, to frost cupcakes. Their laughter echoed through the mansion, turning its cold, opulent walls into a haven of love and warmth. But Ella wasn't content with just settling into her new life. She still carried the dreams she'd nurtured in the village. One evening, as they sat in the garden under a canopy of stars, she turned to Leo with a hopeful look in her eyes. "I've been thinking," she began, "about the bakery. What if I expanded it, opened a second one here in the city?" Leo's eyes lit up. "Ella, that's a brilliant idea. You have such a gift, and I know people here would love what you create." 5. With Leo's unwavering support, Ella threw herself into planning her city bakery. Though she now had access to unlimited resources, she stayed true to her roots, designing a cozy, welcoming space that felt like an extension of her little village shop. She even hired staff from humble backgrounds, giving opportunities to those who reminded her of herself. But the couple didn't stop there. Leo had always admired Ella's compassion and drive, and her ideas inspired him to think bigger. Together, they decided to use his wealth to make a difference. They founded a charity aimed at helping struggling small business owners, providing grants, mentorship, and resources to people who, like Ella, had dreams but lacked the means to achieve them. The charity quickly gained traction, and their work brought them closer together. Ella loved seeing Leo thrive in this new role, his charm and genuine care winning over countless people. In turn, Leo was endlessly proud of Ella, who balanced running her bakeries with being the heart of their charitable endeavors. Though their life was far from the one Ella had imagined when she first fell for the poor drifter, it was richer in every way that mattered. Their love remained grounded, built on trust, laughter, and a shared desire to make the world a little better. The mansion, once a symbol of Leo's hidden life, became a hub of activity and joy, filled with the scent of Ella's baking, the laughter of friends, and the chatter of people whose lives had been touched by their generosity. And every night, as they sat together under the stars, Ella and Leo reminded each other that the most valuable riches weren't found in grand estates or lavish accounts. They were found in the love they shared and the lives they uplifted together. Their days were filled with love, laughter, and the occasional comic mishap. like the time Ella accidentally set off the mansion's alarm system while baking cookies, or when Leo tried to impress her by fixing a leaky faucet and flooded the kitchen instead. Through it all, they remained true to their vows, cherishing each other for the people they were beneath the surface. And so, Ella and Leo proved to the world that true love isn't about riches or status. It's about finding someone who makes your heart sing, no matter what life throws your way. They lived happily ever after, their story a testament to the power of love, laughter, and a little bit of courage.
The Stories book is a captivating collection of tales that traverse diverse genres and emotions, spanning the realms of fantasy, science fiction, romance, and mystery. Each narrative is a journey into the unexpected, weaving intricate plots and compelling characters. With a skillful blend of vivid imagery and thought-provoking themes, this anthology invites readers to explore the depths of imagination and discover the universal threads that connect us all. From heartwarming moments to spine. We hope you enjoyed these captivating video stories. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content like this. Thanks for watching, and keep spreading the video story.